that to add the additional 40 customers, I can be a great medium for you to sample your content. You have spent a huge amount of money on customer acquisition. In India, Bollywood is a religion. The OTT industry is not taken seriously. As he said, that piracy is something which is very common.
We have Mr. Aamir Mulani, founder and CEO, PlayboxTV. May I have the honor of inviting Mr. Aamir Mulani on stage?
So, Aamir, question to you. Let's do a little role play. One of the things that, as an OTT aggregator, that you would, when you go and meet a Ravi and saying, let's add your OTT to my aggregation. The first question that any OTT player will say, it'll cannibalize my D2C business, right? I have this direct customer who's paying me whatever, my MRP, and tomorrow you will take it from me at a wholesale price, and I will lose my existing customer, right? What would be your response to Ravi?
So, my response will be very simple, sir. So, for example, let's assume you're running a restaurant and you have a capacity of serving 100 customers, but on an average, you are able to serve around 60% of your seats and 40% is going just lying down. So, I come in picture and say, boss, that to add the additional 40 customers, I can be a great medium for you to sample your content also with a subscriber. Now, to get that 60 customer also, you have spent a huge amount of money on customer acquisition. So there are people who spend to sell 1,000 rupee subscription. There are people who are spending 3,000 rupees of customer acquisition cost. But from a platform like me, you get a guaranteed subscriber. Obviously, there is a small subsidized value which you offer us. And that is how we will be able to serve those 40 customers who didn't even knew. And the second advantage what Playbox brings in is that assume that you are sitting in a northern market. For example, Arha is very popular in south or Hyderabad belt of it. But at the same time, the customer who is subscribing to, for example, ZEE5 in the north or a Sony in the north, but with a bundling offering, he also getting a small cut of that subscription, which adds more additional revenue to him. So I think it's a win-win situation for both of us.
Let's actually focus on only, if I am a consumer today, and I ask these questions to everybody, question in the beginning, let's talk only what makes sense from a consumer. If I'm a consumer today, I am actually not interested so much in it. Traditional TV, if everybody remembers the EPG, right? The movie channels were all stacked next to each other. There was a reason, because I never watched a Zee Cinema or a Sony Max. I am watching the movie. So I go from one channel to the other and saying, okay, this is the movie I like. They're all stacked next to each other, much easier to make the choice. Today, as a consumer, actually Ashish has left. He just told me some data point that just in Hindi GECs, we are producing 165,000 hours of content. Just in Hindi channels, or not Hindi, sorry, GEC channels, right, across the country. Then if I add all the OTT content that is being made, and I am not going to YouTube, right? There is so much content today for the consumer. How does an OTT aggregation today, and Aamir to you, and then I will go to at least all OTT, how does it make a difference to you? What is the proposition that you have for me as a consumer today, and how does it benefit consumer and OTT?
So, the proposition is very simple. I think we all are in the process of learning, and when we started, the proposition was different. The consumer was thinking differently. But today, if you see today, India has almost more than 80 to 90 plus OTTs. Some are branded, some are non-branded stuff. And it is very difficult to subscribe each one of them. And as you rightly said, it is a content game. So for example, if I want to watch a Shark Tank, so I will definitely go to, and I will find a platform. So the responsibility of an OTT aggregator here is that trying to personalize the product as per the consumer needs. So for example, what kind of content this kind of consumer likes it. Okay. For the consumer is very simple. He doesn't want to watch 20 OTTs. We ourselves bundle 20 plus OTTs with different broadband plans, but it doesn't make sense to the consumer. But it makes sense to the operator, because he wants to show that the large amount of offering I'm giving it to the consumer at a very affordable price. I think Yatin will relate to that thought. As he said, there's a lot of competition in the broadband market. But for the consumer, it is purely content. So if you see even today, I'll tell you some data metrics from our platform. we try to put almost 10 titles on our app from different OTT platforms. And out of 10, we have seen the click per ratio is 3. He will definitely go and try to access the detail page of it, and he will come back, and coincidentally, he will choose one. And 90% of times, consumer know what he wants to watch. He will come, search, click the movie, and just start watching it. So I think my responsibility as a platform or as an aggregator, it is purely give him something which he really wants to, and trying to keep it so easy so that it's not confusing for him to decide.
I mean, something that Ravi said, and that's been ownership of the consumer, right? When he's watching from your app, it's very easy when you do, but when OTT aggregation, it's all deep linked and the movement. But the bigger question there is churn. See, I think Yatin mentioned, right? Before NTO, there was a certain life. There was no churn in cable, right? Everybody was getting 250 rupees, everything. Whether I watch it or not, cable never bothered. If you go to any MSO and saying, how many people watch Star Plus in your network, they will be looking at you and saying, which world do you live in? I don't care, right? Today, the world is different, right? Churn has become a major concern for all traditional players. Churn is a concern for OTT. Churn is a concern for an OTT aggregator, right? So my question is related to what is the difference that as an OTT, if you are running my own, I am your customer, you need to retain me at the time of renewal. Same is the problem for an OTT. How is it different? Because for me, if I am subscribed to an OTT aggregator, I am now questioning how many apps did I see. You charge me 1,999, gave me 20 apps. But boss, I only saw 4, like you said, right? To your point, Aamir, where you said out of 10 tiles, 3 were clicked, only 1 was watched, right? At the time of renewal, as a consumer, I am thinking, what did I do? Similarly for an OTT player, right? Whether when I subscribed, annual, quarterly, monthly, whatever, did I justify that price? So how is it different between an OTT player and an OTT aggregation? Because churn is a big concern.
So I'll just add this to this is that, so if you see whatever subscriptions, irrespective what OTT aggregator is charging or irrespective what OTT platform directly charging, nobody is able to make money. So the question of not watching that particular content so that you don't charge, that is out of question. I think 90% of people will sit here and ask MGs. So I think we are anyway paying almost 40% higher from what they are charging to the end consumer. So because of the MGs, because not everybody is able to meet the MG. That is the biggest concern in the whole aggregation space. That is why there are 3-4 now. But if the MG part would have been removed,
you need a TRA in your life.
Yeah, anybody who can solve this for us. The OTT aggregator is not just helping you to get a new subscriber, but he is working. So for example, B2C model for an OTT aggregator, it will not make sense, at least for next 3 years. So Playbox is highly focused on the B2B market. Operators, which are the internet operators, who are the existing cable operators, we are today reaching to 50,000 operators across India. And these are the guys who are bundling this. That is the only way we are able to survive ourselves.
But even in that market, there will be churn, right?
Churn to 100% if the subscriber stop broadband service.
So what would an OTT aggregator needs to do to stop that churn? See, first time, and in your example of a B2B model, where an operator instead of whatever, with your internet, he's taken the OTT aggregation. But after 6 months, he says, I don't want it. What can you do to get the churn down in your life? Because it will only help people, probably they'll ask less MGs next year.
I think that is not going to happen soon because everybody is trying to make extra buck out of it. But the churn, so in B2B2C, the churn is slightly lesser than what is in B2C, because in B2C, it is purely content based. If I want to watch a particular content, I will subscribe and I'll pay $1,000 also, but I will never come again till the time certain content. But in B2B, it has its bundled. So Yatin will answer this properly because he's the one, a player like us, who are bundling to the end consumer. Irrespective of, end consumer is not paying for that. So the churn over there is less. Again, churn can only be prevented on the basis of there are multiple factors. What if the broadband service is not working fine, he can churn for the OTT also. So it is very difficult to answer that point today.
So actually, Aamir, you said it, and that's what is, see, everybody here, right? We are very excited with the size of the market, right? That restaurant example, actually, if you look at it, is probably you are in 5 and 95 is still,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right? So if I look at internet users, so many smartphones, so much potential of what morning somebody said, right? 100 million still to be, I don't believe in it, but whatever. The thing is that there is a large market, right? Whether it's for OTT or it's for linear. But somehow everyone is struggling, like you said. Nobody is making money. People are. What is it that is how do you reach the larger audience? And this is a question for an OTT aggregator, a cable company which wants to, and OTT, right? Why is it that, is it pricing is a problem? Is it the numbers? People are very satisfied with what they're watching, their mobile phones or their TVs. They don't want to spend money. I have enough time to kill. What is it that, one of the greatest interviews that I've seen, and I've quoted this before, it's Reed Hastings, who's Netflix chairman. When somebody asked him, who's your competitor, he said sleep, right? So that was the level of saying that people should consume more. Now here we have probably on an average 1.5 mobiles in this room for everybody's hand. Still we are all struggling, right? What is it? Is it pricing? Is it content? But I don't think so. We're producing so much content. What is it that people are not willing to spend or subscribe? And this is open to everybody. So
I feel it's an intent. The problem is intent. The consumer is ready to pay because consumer loves watching content. In India, Bollywood is religion, and so I feel it is never the concern of the price. I think the right model is missing. The whole industry, as OTT industry, is not taken seriously. None from the linear guys and none from the consumer side, because it is always that, as he said, that piracy is something which is very common and very normal. Even my father sometimes watch content and I don't even come to know that he's watching from a pirated website. And it is very easily available to these guys. I think the awareness needs to be created from the broadcaster, from the aggregators, and from the distribution side of the model. So then only this will rightly fit into a model where, because if you make it available at right price in a legal model, consumer will pay for it, but nobody has an intent to market that much. Some are the concerns, there are concerns of money, as there is no margin for the aggregator so much which he can share with the cable operator or a linear player. So all this will come in place over the period of time. So intent which needs to build to come together and solve this, I think that is missing.
Thank you everybody for spending. Thank you Indian Television for giving us this opportunity to have this chat. Thank you.